Hey, folks, today is Tuesday, July 28th, 2026. Coming up on Roland Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Longtime Color Change CEO Rashad Robinson will joining us talking about his new book about how we maximize our political power. Also, Letitia Plummer is running to become the next judge of Harris County. We'll talk with her. Trump is going after mail-in voting. They got a huge victory. We'll tell exactly what took place and how that has lots of folks worried. Also, we talk about Tuskegee's new dress code as not making a lot of people happy. Some calling it anti-black. And our latest ShopBlackStarNetwork.com segment. It's time to bring the fun on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the fine. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Longtime civil rights activist Rashad Robinson understands protest, understands political campaigns. He led Color Change for a number of years and significant campaigns and wins. Now he has a new book out where he talks about what really needs to happen in terms of how we move forward. The book is called From Presence to Power, How to Take on the Fights That Matter and Win. So Rashad, glad to have you here. Everywhere I go, you probably get this as well. People say, I want to do something. I don't know what to do. And the average person says, I don't have any power.
Yeah.
But you say they do.
Yeah, I think that what the right wing has actually shown us is that they have totally changed how people can participate, how everyday people can engage. I mean, if you go to the gym, you see folks turning on Fox News and changing the channel. They're wearing their red caps and their jerseys, and as a result, shifting sort of the way that society works. What sort of happens in our schools and other sort of environmental spaces that we're living and operating in. And sometimes we're treating politics almost like it's a basketball game or it's theater. The folks are on the court, the players are on the court, or the players are on the stage, and then we're watching from the outside and commenting. And I think one of the things that we have to recognize, and in this era, if we're going to get out of the mess that we're in, we're going to have to do some things to find our power. So part of what I've done in From Presence to Power, which is really a framework, a 21st century framework for how we understand taking on big tech, taking on Hollywood, taking on government, taking on all the forces that stand in your way, is that we're going to need more of us to find our power. And I'm not just explaining it to you, I'm not just giving you concepts, but throughout the book, there are 9 lessons, there are exercises in the book. Take out a piece of paper, map sort of the things that you have in your disposal, and I ask really clear questions so that we can find our power in the singular, but also questions so that we can find our power in the plural. What I mean by that is finding sort of our ability to have connect with the networks and finding our people and finding our tribe so that we can move forward in a different way.
You cannot find your power, though, unless you understand the power of the collective.
Yes.
So what you described when it came to the right is what they've done. They sort of all begin how they move and operate, support one another, drive one another's content that builds this ecosystem, whether it's groups or whether it's media.
You're absolutely right. I mean, the part of what they've done to be able to beat us in the media space is that they're promoting one another, they're uplifting one another, they've built with their resources and money ways really for folks who are sort of emerging content creators to be able to be monetized. They're not sort of afraid of their people being able to make money for reaching people and engaging voices. And so we are going to have to find new strategies and engage in new ways if we're going to win up against everything that's stacked up in our way. And so, you've been such a pioneer, Roland, in the media space, building an independent platform that has sort of launched other voices while at the same time reaching people in ways that few others are able to do. And we're going to need more Roland Martins, but we're also going to need to recognize that as we have these platforms, the ask and the demands and the political advocacy is also going to get better, right? Far too often, we are not taking our fights to the corporations that are profiteering off of injustice. We are not taking our fights to the profiteers who are sort of gaining higher status through hierarchy in the face of our oppression. And so we're going to need more voices connecting and reaching people, more narrative infrastructure. We're also just going to need better campaigns. And what my book does is it walks through really clear, essential lessons. But then I tell stories from the campaigns that I've been part of, the ones that I've won, but many that we've lost along the way. And I help to try to deconstruct those things. I mean, you covered very closely so many of the fights that I had with Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg, really fighting for change at Facebook because we weren't at a point where we could get the type of sort of regulation at the federal level that was required. So I was going back and forth, and they would demand that I signed an NDA, and I refused. And they would put a big badge on my suit, and I would have to walk around their offices with that said no NDA. But because I didn't sign that NDA, I'm able to tell the readers how it actually works in those rooms. How do you know whether or not you're in a dialogue versus a negotiation? Our opponents want to keep us in a dialogue. They want to keep us talking. They want to be able to say, we talked to those black folks. This is what they think. We're in conversation. We want to get to the point where we get to a negotiation, which means we have enough leverage to force them to do things that they don't want to do. That means we can't take their money lots of times. That means we have to actually take on fights that sometimes might be uncomfortable. But if we're going to move the ball forward and actually get the type of change, it changes the circumstances that we're in, we're going to have to do some things different. And that's why I stepped back in this moment to write this book. And that's why I'm traveling the country to sort of offer a real intervention in this moment.
You also have the experience when it comes to fundraising. And let's just be honest. Part of this problem is that Democrats/progressive donors have a totally different view than conservative Republican donors. Conservative Republican donors understand how you have to fund a movement. How significant is that being a problem in building this cohesive ecosystem? Because what the folks on the left or again, progressives don't like is they don't want dissension or disagreement, but that's just not how all of this works.
That's not how it all works. I mean, you couldn't be more right. I actually talk about in the book how the right wing's billionaires, they're billionaires that fund their movement, are actually sometimes more radical than their activists. They actually want to push things even further.
What kind of crib y'all in and what y'all paying for home insurance in 2026?
Three-bed ranch,
and then, sort of in our situation, on our side, our activists have to lead and sometimes drag our donors with us. And if we go too far, sometimes the money will be removed. And so, when we looked at all the money that came into racial justice movements in 2020, a lot of that money I simply didn't take because it came from corporations. And it came with the type of strings that, made it very hard for us to make the unapologetic demands that we need. I think money is absolutely a part of the equation. But I think if we build enough power, if we build campaigns that are unignorable, if we organize our people in ways that we are as consequential in election cycles or as consequential to corporations as we possibly can be, folks are going to have to find a way to fund us. When I first started doing work around progressive prosecutors or doing work in the criminal justice system, there were very few funders that were actually funding that work. But over time, we became consequential in elections. We weren't just electing reform-minded district attorneys. We were actually turning out black voters who we could get to vote up and down the ballot. And as a result, donors needed to engage with us in a different way. And so I think we have to be able to build campaigns and build efforts that we're not just going hat in hand with donors asking them what they want. Building efforts that are powerful enough that we force them to come to the table and try to fund and support and align with our work. But absolutely, resources are part of the table. But even if we have all the resources in the world, that's not going to cover up bad strategy. That's not going to cover up a power analysis that doesn't actually understand that we have to take on profiteers, that we have to understand the role of perception, that we have to tell stories that are powerful enough to reach people, engage them, and activate them in ways that they're going to stay with us over time. So it does require resources, but far too often I've seen folks try to cover up bad strategy with money, and that doesn't get us anywhere either.
Last question for you, 'cause I know you have to go.
Yeah.
The book that I'm working on that will drop in February deals with organizational infrastructure.
Yes.
And when I think about legacy civil rights groups, I believe that there are a lot of people who don't align with how they move, how they work, how they flow. And I think what's happening is, to your point about accepting corporate contributions. And I think what's happening is right now, people want a place to go.
Yeah.
People want a place to be involved with. And so they're asking, okay, but who do I join? Where do I join? And that to me, and then with all these organizations that we do have, frankly, a lot of them are risk averse and scared.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I give in the book some examples of the type of questions you can ask, the type of ways that you can kind of determine whether or not engaging in an activity or an effort is a good use of your time, or engaging with an organization, different types of organizations are a good use of your time. And I think that's incredibly important. Part of what the right wing has done is they have forced their organizations and their political leaders to respond and engage differently. And sometimes I think we're waiting for our organizations to do everything for us when we can actually force those organizations to respond differently. We're wondering where the Democrats are and why Democratic leaders aren't engaging. And I can think about so many moments where the right wing, just line activists, have changed the incentive structure for their elected officials. Politicians who were once considered institutionalists in the Senate are no longer institutionalists because they can't afford to be. And so we do have to change sort of what is expected, what the floor looks like, and what the ceiling looks like. I have a whole chapter on infrastructure in the book, which is not always a sexy term, but I really do try to deconstruct it. I talk about, I tell stories of the civil rights movement and talk about Bayard Rustin and Ella Baker going to Dr. King and building the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and why they built it. Not that we should build a new Southern Christian Leadership Conference, but they built it because they saw a gap. They saw that there were all these disconnected churches and religious leaders, and they needed a stronger base of connected folks. And if they could get those folks aligned and engage, the sum total of that could be more than the individual parts. And that was a technology. It was an intervention at that moment. I think lots of times what happens on our side is we continue to look back at sort of the legacy of those moments and try to recreate them, not try to recreate the sort of strategic insight that came from it. We need new interventions. You've been so powerful at sort of seeing the media landscape and not trying to create the old thing, but fighting the next war. And so our infrastructure of tomorrow is gonna have to be about fighting the next war. It's gonna have to be recognizing about what are the ways in which technology can be used and what are the ways in which we need to recognize that it could be dragging us into the past. How do we use the tools of tomorrow? How do we build the infrastructure of tomorrow? And part of what my entire career has been about using technology, has been about finding openings, has been about taking on campaigns where we have been David and we've taken on Goliath. And sort of in this next role, I want to go out and I want to make the interventions that help us win more things. So this is a book that's also going to have a lot of backlash because I'm talking about corporations and I'm talking about corporate power. So I'm not going to be on every media outlet. And there's going to be a lot of places that are just not going to want to hear some of this. So I appreciate you always creating space for this, and I hope that those who are watching, those who are listening, recognize that in this moment, if you're tired of losing and you want to win more things, that our opponents have a whole infrastructure for getting out their ideas. And so from presence to power is sort of my intervention in this moment, and hopefully an intervention for all of us that know that we have to do something different.
As I sit here, the severe storm that is sitting over the nation's capital that's about to rain down some massive rain. There are severe storms happening all across this country politically. And this is not the moment where we all run and seek shelter and never come out. We've got to get involved in this and be active. Because these people simply, if we do nothing, or as I always say, if we're present but have no presence, then they're going to solidify the power. Y'all, the book is called From Presence to Power, How to Take on the Fights That Matter and Win by Rashad Robinson. Rashad, we appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
All right, folks, going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk with our panel. At the bottom of the hour, we'll be talking with Dr. Letitia Plummer, who wants to become the next Harris County judge in the Houston area. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, let me get personal for a second. My mom had questions about her Medicare, so she called Chapter, a Medicare advisory company, and she texted me right after saying it's a great benefit. It was easy. A real person walked her through the whole thing, and now she understands better what's going on. But it's not just her. A woman in Yonkers wrote in saying the process was so simple, the enrollment was easy, and she was so glad she called. Then there's Marilyn, 90 years old, in Florida, living on Social Security. Her premium climbed every single year north of $400 a month for coverage she could barely afford anymore. So what does she do? She called Chapter. They found her the same top-tier coverage for hundreds of dollars less. 90 years old, and finally somebody in her corner. I hear stories like that again and again from our community. The Medicare system was not built to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans. Yet Chapter's advisors are independent and honest, the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. They're focused on one thing, what actually works for you. If you're already in the right plan, they'll tell you. No games. People who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100 a year. All it takes is 20 minutes. You talk to a real person, and it's completely free help. So call Chapter at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281. That's Chapter.
Ask you a question. Why do so many people seem to think they know black men so well? What they think we want, what they think we need. Hell, they even tried to tell us why and how we voted, but never had a conversation with us. Never asked us how we felt, what brings us joy, what makes us angry, what makes us scared. How do we live? That's what this show is about. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. We can speak for ourselves. This will be a show where we bring brothers on that you don't see on every other talk show. Nope. Brothers that are doing work in local communities with black men for black communities. We're going to hear each other and try to understand so perhaps we can move forward together. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. Nope. What we need is each other. No translation, right here on the Black Star Network. Check it out.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
There's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
My name is Bill Duke, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, let's bring up our panel right now. Glad to have them joining us on today's show. Joining us right now, Winkudi Siant. She, of course, is co-founder and CEO of Politicking, joining us from D.C. Randy Bryant, entrepreneur, author, speaker out of D.C. as well. And Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for environmental justice at the EPA. Glad to have all three of you here. Winkudi is real simple. What Rashad talked about is so important, that people are going to have to understand that you can't sit on the sidelines if you want to see change. And it's not going to happen just because. It literally involves people doing the work.
Absolutely. And I was so curious to hear what those principles that he had delineated were. But I mean, I think you're right, Roland. I think every day we see people having to take up the charge to do the work. And I think his book is a really poignant example of how we do that.
Unfortunately, Randy, too many people have been sitting on the sidelines expecting others to do the work and thinking stuff is going to just magically change.
Right. And I think everyone is looking for someone to lead them. Just you said earlier about how we're looking for an organization to join or someone to tell us what to do. And I really want people to be empowered that everyone can do something, even if it's by themselves. They can decide that they're going to help educate people about voting, or they're going to ensure that they can drive people to vote, or they are just going to, I've been really thinking about building community and going back and just hosting dinners at my home on Sundays where we get together and talk. And so people can feel as if, they have a voice that's being listened to, and we can talk about action plans, but everyone has the power to do something. And right now it's very clear that we need everyone.
Mustafa?
Well, Ella Baker made sure to, highlight for us that each and every one of us has leadership inside of us. We don't have to wait for some politician or some corporate leader or whoever it might be. That each and every one of us has not only a responsibility, but the gifts to be able to lead, to be able to make change happen. So we should make sure that we are continuing to follow the words of Miss Ella Baker and others who have shared with us that we can get it done ourselves.
Well, to your point, the reason that was a conflict with Ella Baker and Dr. King, she believed in pew to pulpit. He believed in pulpit to pew. And so that's, I think, is also important because it was the people driving the agenda, not necessarily leadership telling folks what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. It was the power of the people. Ella Baker always reminded us of that. And if you follow many of the grassroots leaders and others who I've worked with, it has always been about the grassroots where many of the impacts are happening, but the opportunities also have to be a leading voice in the framing out of policy. That's one of the things I'm excited about reading Rashad's book. Because real power, real change happens from the grassroots up. That does not mean that others are not critically important in the process. But if it's not changing the lives of everyday folks, why are we doing it? And unfortunately, we have some folks who want all the attention, they want the glamour and the spotlight of leadership, but they don't want to do the hard work.
I want to stay right there on that particular point. It is not about the glamour or the attention. Unfortunately, when Cooney, we're living in this attention economy where that's what it's all about, where real work is not about becoming a celebrity.
It's really not, Roland, and I think a lot of people have missed that with the advent of social media. I think it has given so many people a platform, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? I think it's great that people have platforms, but I think what the issue is that, unfortunately, my generation, we don't see enough people really step into the forefront to really lean into what leadership looks like. And I think it's because of bystander effect, right, Roland? Everybody thinks somebody else is going to do something about the problem, and thereby nobody ends up doing anything at all. So I think we have to recognize that with an opportunity and with a platform comes power. And I really call more young people to really step up to the pulpit and really start to gather the people behind them.
Randy, I remember when we were in Shreveport, Louisiana, and it was after that brother had shot and killed 7 of his kids and 2 of the women. And there was a young man who stepped up to the microphone, and he implored those on the panel to pass the baton. And he talked about his big social media following. And what I said to him was, hey, why don't you organize and mobilize your followers, your people, younger folks? I said, and then when you've done that, when you come back to the table, you actually don't have to ask to pass the baton. You have created something. Well, he then goes back and puts a video out criticizing me for what I said. And I said, but you're proving my point. All you're doing is just putting out videos. I said, you need to understand, becoming a leader is not just about clicks and views. It's literally about building something.
You're right. I mean, there's a responsibility that comes with when you do get attention because you're on social media and you are putting out videos, which is a form of activism. Hopefully in your people's videos, they're educating people, they're motivating people. But at the same time, what is the next step? What are you doing to actually make change and showing other people how to make change? And I believe oftentimes people get lost in the fame and the attention of things. We see a lot of social media presence where they are now, traveling and showing what they're doing as far as their personal lives, which is also fine. But have you lost your vision? Have you lost your goal? And if your goal is to make changes within the Black community, then you have to keep your eye on that prize.
Folks, numerous times you heard me discuss on this show why it's important for us to pay attention to local races. So much attention, obviously, is on the building 2 blocks from where I sit, the White House, also a few blocks from Congress, state capitals, governors, and mansions. But we also understand that all politics is also local. And so when we encourage people to focus on city council races, school board races, DA races, municipal judge races, as well as county races. Well, Harris County is about to go through a leadership change. Lena Hidalgo opted not to seek re-election. When the Democratic primary took place, my next guest actually beat the former mayor of Houston, Annise Parker, be the Democratic nominee, but she's in a tough fight. You've got significant forces in Harris County, where Houston is, that are conservative, who want to take back the county judge. And so my next guest is a dentist, an entrepreneur, also a former member of the Houston City Council, Dr. Letitia Plummer. Glad to have you here. You're running against Republican Orlando Sanchez. He served as a county treasurer. He's run for mayor. He's run for any number of positions. Look, you have a blue county, Republican in Austin, Texas, the state capital, hate that. They would love to capture the county judge position. What are you saying to people over the next little more than 2 months, how they have to, just what we were talking about, maximize their power if they want to see a Democrat maintain that county judge position in Harris County?
First of all, Roland, thank you for allowing me to be here with you today. And so listen, no matter who you are, what side of the fence you're on, what religion or culture you are, everyone wants a couple of things. Harris County, we are known for our disasters. We don't want to flood every time it rains. We want to live in a safe environment. We want a level of economic opportunity for everyone. We want safe, good schools for us to go to. And so I'm really driving that affordability message as well. Just trying to stay on the issues that really affect almost 5 million people within the county, regardless of what side they're on. And so we're just driving that message that's really resonated, and I truly believe what got us to this win.
You talk about that. Obviously, it is a diverse county. Frankly, it is larger than some states. And so what do you see, what are your 3 or 4 issues that you believe will resonate with voters in Harris County?
So the number one thing is disaster recovery, preparedness, and resilience. We flood every single time it rains here. And so making sure that we're putting infrastructure dollars in communities that struggle the most, looking at social determinants is something that we're focusing on. The economic opportunities here. We spend billions of dollars in terms of procurement. Oftentimes the same corporations or companies get the bids every single time. So looking at how do we make sure that small to mid-sized businesses actually have an opportunity. Our public health system, Texas is the highest uninsured, and we do have Harris Health here, which is great. We have over 1 million people experience our 16 community centers and our hospitals here, and so ensuring that they stay funded consistently. And then we're looking at environmental justice challenges. We've got cancer clusters across the county. We have air quality issues that really allow a lot of our low-income communities to have challenges, and so looking at the environmental justice issues as well. And then obviously everyone talks about public safety. Public safety is a big deal. It's an issue, but I want to look at root causes. Our county jail is overpopulated. 80% of our inmates have mental health challenges. So looking at our county jail system and seeing how do we ensure that nonviolent offenders actually have a chance and a shot to lower recidivism, and trying to see how we can support our mental health residents so they don't end up in the Harris County jail system.
You talk about that. What places are you studying? Are you looking at where they've had a drastic reduction? Are you looking at Baltimore and looking at Mayor Brandon Scott? Have you tried to communicate with him to get an understanding of what his plan was to bring murders to a 50-year low and dramatically drop crime in Baltimore?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we are teaming up. We're creating a task force that will help us look at best practices across the nation and bringing experts to the table, because, you know, a lot of the Republicans want to build another jail. That's their plan. And we know that that's not what we want to do here in Harris County. You know, we spend about $50 million outsourcing 1,500 approximately inmates to Mississippi and Louisiana. And I would like to create a workforce to justice program, or rather justice to workforce program. And I am looking at best practices across the nation to see how we can lower recidivism and give those nonviolent offenders an opportunity to have a chance to take care of their families in the future.
You talked about contracts as it relates to African Americans. Where does Harris County currently stand?
Very low. As a matter of fact, the African Americans are almost the lowest in terms of their involvement with large county contracts. And a lot of that's capacity building, Roland. We don't do a really good job making sure that our mid-sized to small businesses are actually a part of the conversation. Oftentimes, you know, because there is a percentage that you have to use MWBE programs, oftentimes they'll get on the contract and they'll never get a job. And they just kind of sit on the line on that. And so really looking at procurement is something that I want to do. When I was at the city of Houston, we used what was called co-ops, which large big box entities that will that get the bids, and then they obviously have lower price. We got to be careful about that, because obviously oftentimes that really boxes out those small to mid-sized folks. And so I was able to do a carve out at the city of Houston to allow our big box folks engage with our small to mid-sized businesses to be a part of the conversation. I want to do the same thing when we get to the county. And I also put a rotation in place, whereas every single time a contract was won, you rotated out of the process, which allows another person, another company to be able to be a prime on that and then bring someone up. And so, you know, we spend billions of dollars in terms of procurement at the county, and oftentimes the same folks get the same jobs every single time.
Well, again, that definitely is a way to actually build and grow capacity. Mustafa, your question?
Dr. Plummer, it's good to see you. Thank you for raising environmental justice also. At the end of, let's say you win the election, at the end of your term, what changes will have happened in Harris County? What will be different? What will it look like differently?
So much. Number one, our jail is going to look completely different. We're going to lower recidivism. We're going to handle the mental health crisis that we are experiencing in Harris County, you know, really, really head on. So you're going to see that difference there. Environmental justice is obviously a big conversation I have. I was able to drive down $1.5 million working with nonprofit entities and cancer clusters in Fifth Ward. I want to expand that and really look at the whole entire county. How do we work with TCEQ? You know, how do we look at permitting? How do we make sure that we hold these large industries accountable that are really focused and are in our low-income communities? So that's going to look way different. We're going to see another hospital in our East End area, in our unincorporated 2 million people, unincorporated East Harris County. You're going to see a medical facility there that will allow us to take care of the folks that live in those unincorporated areas. And you are going to see a procurement department that looks completely different. It's going to be equitable and fair, and you're going to see a rotation of building capacity. And then, then finally, we are going to deal with disaster recovery and resilience in a way different way. Right now, it's incredibly reactive. I would like to put together what I'm calling lily pad resiliency hubs. They're deployable hubs that will move across the county when a disaster happens. And so it's going to look way different in 4 years. It may not. It's definitely not going to happen overnight. But I'm not really a politician by trade. I'm a doctor by trade, which means I heal people every single day. And we're going to heal these communities and make sure that we're able to thrive.
Randy?
Dr. Plummer, what made you, what inspired you to say, I want to serve in this way? I want to serve my area in this way.
Thank you so much for that question. I sat on city council, did a great job, checked all the boxes. I felt like we had accomplished the goal. And then I heard Anise Parker was the only one in the race. And I just, in my heart and my mind, I could not imagine how we didn't have an option. I always teach my boys, I have 3 sons. I teach my boys all the time. The best thing is to have options, because you're not boxed in and making decisions. And so that's what we did. We brought a different option to Harris County voters, and we did it. We were outnumbered, we were outpolled, we were outraised, outnamed in every way, but our message resonated. And I'm just so honored and humbled, honestly, to be able to be the first African-American to ever hold this seat, and just excited to be able to help my community.
Owen Cooney.
Thank you for that, Dr. Plummer. I love the notion of having options. And as you mentioned, healthcare has been at the center of your career. I'm curious about what lessons from the healthcare field have most influenced your work in public office.
Yeah, so I use it all the time. So as a doctor, I have to first listen to my patient. My patient will always tell me what the problem is way before I look at any data. Then I look at the diagnostics. I look at my x-rays. I diagnose the problem from my scientific perspective. And then I ask the patient, I tell the patient, these are our options. What do you want to do? These are the pros and the cons. And we bring specialists in to have that conversation and make sure we give them all the information that they need. Then they decide. They've got that level of autonomy and authority to decide on how they want to be handled, and then we execute and heal. I do the exact same thing in politics. It's no different. And I think what we don't do as elected leaders is we don't listen enough. We just have to be quiet long enough to listen, because our community has all of the answers, and I think that's really where it starts. And so I use that same type of platform or structure in making my decisions every single day. It's got us great wins at City Council, and it's going to get us great wins at Harris County.
Money obviously is important, and so how is fundraising going?
Yeah, fundraising is good. I mean, I will tell you, Roland, we're never going to raise as much as Republicans, but I was outraised 10-1 in this race. And so, yes, money's important, but people are more. And that's what we proved in this race. We have got people that are ready to go. I think over 400 people have already signed up to volunteer on our campaign. And I will continue to fundraise, doing our call time and driving those dollars in to make sure that we can do all the things that we need to do to let people know who I am, what I stand for, and why I'm asking them for their support. And so, yes, it's coming in. It's, fundraising is tough right now. It's the summer. Everyone's on holidays, but it is consistent. People are having fundraisers over and over and over again for me. Call time is doing great. So we're excited about this.
I just had Rashad Robinson on, and he was talking about his book, From Presence to Power, how to take on the fights that matter and win. As you are traveling around Harris County, I'm quite sure you're hearing people say, you know what, I don't believe I can make a difference. What do you say to those folks who have checked out of a process in terms of not voting, especially African Americans?
I tell them that everything is political. And I know that oftentimes they think that voting is the political answer, but everything in their life, they're dealing with their kids is political, dealing with their businesses is political. You have to find a way to advocate for yourself. And we do that really well. And we're just engaging people. But I'll tell you, Roland, the reason why people are disengaged is because they don't believe in the process anymore. Politicians say they're going to do something. You only see them when it's time to go vote. They don't show up any other time. They make all these campaign promises, and there's zero execution at the end. And that's what we're trying to is that look what I did. Look at my record. Look what I did at City Council. Look at what we were able to achieve. Trust the process. I'm just trying to bring hope back to these communities, but we have to show it. We have to show it. And I'm taking that very seriously because, voter apathy is going to increase if we don't actually do what we're going to say. And that's what my promise is to them. And we're just trying to just get them engaged and tell them we have to, people fought so hard for the opportunity to vote. We just can't let it not be something that we're focused on and doing.
Technology is obviously critically important. And I'm constantly saying to folk, that when you are talking to the room, you actually are speaking to 4 more people. I'm saying you're not just talking to the room when you're streaming. How are you using technology to drive your messaging? Because obviously ads are expensive. And so what is happening there? Because somebody may say, hey, I couldn't come to your town hall, but is your team, are y'all streaming those events? How are you driving social to reach low propensity voters? Do you have a strong digital campaign with TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all the other social media platforms?
We do. We have an amazing team, and we're using the voting data to be able to drive that conversation. So it's incredibly targeted. One good thing about Texas is that we all do research, we knock doors, and we make phone calls, and all of that goes into one database. And so we're using that. It's called VAN, and we use that system to make sure that we're touching people consistently and letting them know. I'm also everywhere. Every town hall is not only virtual, but it's also in person. So they can come personally meet me, but they can also, watch and stream online. We've got people and influencers sharing our information all the time. We are definitely using our social media aspects to get to folks. But the other thing too is that, we've got 5 million people, average age is about 37. We also have to talk about older voters, and older voters are at churches and they're at Bible studies. And so we have to meet people where they are. Many people live in unincorporated areas and the county is massive. So I've got to go to those different neighborhoods and go to their civic club meetings and super neighborhoods and all of those things. So I am really busy. This is not anything that we're taking lightly, but we are using every single avenue to touch all of our voters to make sure they know who I am and what we stand for.
You talked about it being massive. People really don't understand how large Harris County is. When you talk about running for statewide, I mean, listen, you're covering 254 counties. This, again, as I said, this one county population-wise is larger than several states.
24 to be exact. It's almost 5 million people, and 2 million of them live in the unincorporated areas. It is massive. It is massive. But I will tell you this, I ran citywide for city council. And so Houston proper itself is large. And so, it being large isn't such a big deal to me. It's really touching people that didn't know who I was as a council member and really just getting my name ID up. And so a lot of effort, a lot of creativity, but our message is resonating. And then we're building our surrogate base, and we'll have surrogates. They'll be able to go to meetings and really speak on our behalf. And so I can't do this by myself. This has got to be a collective effort, collaborating with the Texas Democratic Party, with our Harris County Democratic Party as well. And so really kind of doing coordinated campaigns, working with our down ballot candidates as well. Top of the ticket, obviously, Tallarico and Hinojosa. So we are looking at this from a broad scale, but we're drilling down too. People got me here, and I'm never going to forget that. And those are the ones that are going to move the ground enough to make sure we win.
Obviously, when you look at the demographics, the reality is Harris County is a majority-minority district, some 46% Latino, 20% African-American, almost 25% white. And so this also is about part of coalition building.
It absolutely is. And one thing that I love about my background is, my mother is Arab and Yemeni, and my dad is Black American. So I really do understand kind of the cross culture that we experience in Harris County. And I think that's kind of one of my superpowers, to be honest. But I'll tell you, 79% of African Americans did not vote in the midterm, in that March primary. And so we've got a
No, I don't want you to go past that. Give that number again.
Yeah. Yes, 79% of Black voters did not vote in the March primary.
In terms of Harris County?
In Harris County.
And so the reason I want you to repeat that, because when I was trying to explain to people, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, and what happened there, she needed massive turnout in Harris County to win. Folks did not vote. And people were like, I'm not understanding. I'm like, because you have to look at the actual numbers. Go right ahead.
Yeah, so there are people, Roland, that we just need to touch again. These are folks that voted for Kamala, right? We just got to bring them back. And so we've got very targeted messaging to folks and trying to understand, what is it? What is it about? What made you stay home in this March primary? And there are opportunities there. And I love that. And so we're going to ignite our base. We're going to talk to every voter across the county. But we really have to figure out how we can increase our black voter turnout, and not just for me, but for our down ballots. I mean, we've got some great down ballot candidates that could just do amazing things in Harris County. And so, that's my job. I've got to deliver Harris County. Mm-hmm. And a lot of folks don't really realize that. But to win Texas, you have to win Harris County. There are no options, and so I'm taking that job very seriously.
You mean as a Democrat? Obviously, Republicans do well in Texas, but if you don't win Harris County, you ain't winning nothing.
You're done. Nothing. It all stops here. Everything stops at Harris County. And so I really do believe that it's a big charge, but it's something I'm taking seriously, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that my down ballot folks have an opportunity to represent Harris County.
Well, I've not decided whether we're going to be in the state in September or October, but I'm sure we'll be crossing paths as we broadcast from the Lone Star State leading to the midterm elections.
I would love that. Thank you so much.
All right. I appreciate it. Letitia Plummer, good luck. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, folks. Got to go to a break. We'll be back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget, support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Goals get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each a year. It's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. Support this show and all of our shows on the network, including our new show with Jeff Johnson. We have the promo coming up next. And so, again, if you want to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. It's also for credit cards. If you're listening, go to blackstarnetwork.com for ways to donate. Checks and money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal's R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo RM Unfiltered. Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Ask you a question. Why do so many people seem to think they know black men so well? What they think we want, what they think we need. Hell, they even tried to tell us why and how we voted, but never had a conversation with us. Never asked us how we felt, what brings us joy, what makes us angry, what makes us scared. How do we live? That's what this show is about. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. We can speak for ourselves. This will be a show where we bring brothers on that you don't see on every other talk show. Nope. Brothers that are doing work in local communities with black men for black communities. We're going to hear each other and try to understand so perhaps we can move forward together. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. Nope. What we need is each other. No translation, right here on the Black Star Network. Check it out.
All right, folks, let me get personal for a second. My mom had questions about her Medicare, so she called Chapter, a Medicare advisory company, and she texted me right after saying it's a great benefit. It was easy. A real person walked her through the whole thing, and now she understands better what's going on. But it's not just her. A woman in Yonkers wrote in saying the process was so simple, the enrollment was easy, and she was so glad she called. Then there's Marilyn, 90 years old, in Florida, living on Social Security. Her premium climbed every single year north of $400 a month for coverage she could barely afford anymore. So what does she do? She called Chapter. They found her the same top-tier coverage for hundreds of dollars less. 90 years old, and finally somebody in her corner. I hear stories like that again and again from our community. The Medicare system was not built to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans. Yet Chapter's advisors are independent and honest, the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. They're focused on one thing, what actually works for you. If you're already in the right plan, they'll tell you. No games. And people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100 a year. All it takes is 20 minutes. You talk to a real person, and it's completely free help. So call Chapter at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281. That's Chapter.
This is Tamala Mann.
And this is David Mann. And you're watching Roland Martin
Unfiltered.
Folks, the Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court to weigh in on their new restrictions on mail-in ballots. This also follows a big victory that they actually received in court. So an appeals court actually spoke up about this. And give me 1 second, I'm going to pull this up. And so this was posted earlier today. In a loss for voters, the D.C. Circuit affirmed a lower court ruling upholding parts of Donald Trump's executive order targeting mail voting, including allowing DHS to build a citizenship registry, the USPS to withhold mail ballots from states that don't share voter data with the government. Now, on Monday, the Department of Justice asked the Supreme Court to freeze several lower court rulings that blocked Trump's March executive order from taking effect while the administration appeals. The executive order would only allow states to deliver mail-in ballots, again, to federal people and federal citizenship lists or eligible voters. The Postal Service could deny delivery of mail-in ballots, and federal funding could be withheld from states that don't comply with the new rules. In a statement, Solicitor General of the United States, D. John Sowers, said, quote, "And the injunction is especially indefensible because the agencies are still deliberating over how, if at all, to implement the order. Yet the district court preemptively decided that whatever the agencies may choose to do will necessarily be unlawful." The administration is asking the court to approve this request quickly so that the new policies can take effect in time for the midterm elections. The reality here, Mustafa, it's not enough time. And you've heard Senator Tom Tillis and others say that. But again, what Donald Trump and MAGA is trying to do, you want to talk about rigging elections? This is rigging elections.
Yeah, this is major voter suppression. This is rigging elections. This is making sure that, less people have the opportunity to fully participate. I think what was it, over 150 million people voted in 2024. A third of those were actually people who utilize mail-in ballots because it's more convenient for a whole lot of folks. There are elders who can't get out and want to make sure that they'll still be able to participate. There are others who are working and can't participate. So once again, this is literally taking away the opportunity for people who, whether they're Democrats, Republicans, or independents, from all kinds of communities, the ability to fully participate in the civic process. And it just, it is par for the course, once again, for this administration, who knows that their policies are whack. They know that their policies are not something that the vast majority of Americans are interested in because they see that they're living under much harsher conditions. So once again, they try and do whatever they can to lower the amount of people who want to vote so that they can at least be competitive in the next election.
The thing here, Win Cooney, that we have to really pay attention to is, again, this is about theft. This is about limiting folk who vote. You've got some states like Oregon and Colorado, especially Oregon, Washington State, where all voting takes place by mail. You on mute?
Yes, Roland, this is infuriating, but unfortunately not surprising. We've seen this administration time and time again try to stymie the votes of particularly Black and brown voters, right? But mail-in voting is no different. Trump wants to limit mail-in voting, even though this is predominantly how he's been able to cast his own votes. As Mustafa stated, 30% of ballots have been cast that way in the 2024 election. And so it makes sense to think that at least that percentage would use them again. And let's really think about it. When we think about voter disenfranchisement, when you take away something like mail-in voting, that's the number one way to disenfranchise a people, because we know that mail-in voting increases voter participation, particularly for people with demanding work schedules, caregiving responsibilities, disabilities, illnesses, people that are historically disenfranchised and disengaged, right? It also helps people to vote more informed, right, Roland? If you're sitting at home in front of your computer and you can have the time to thoroughly look up information, that generally means you're a more prepared voter, right? It also reduces election day congestion for people who actually want to go in and cast a ballot in person, which is fine. Some people love to do that, but it reduces election day congestion for people who are going to be able, who can't do that, right? Provides flexibility, allows ballot tracking. There's so many pros to mail-in voting. So it makes sense that, of course, our fascist in chief would want to get rid of it.
Randy?
It is so infuriating because all of this is based on a lie. He has pushed this narrative that there is fraud involved in mail-in voting, and every research has shown that that is simply not true. But he gets away with these lies because people don't do the research. He says something and people believe it. And so it's so disgusting that his agenda is being pushed forward on nothing but lies. this will affect so many people. And it's the people, like even the people who serve in the military. How does he expect them to vote when they are overseas serving our country? In all ways, it cuts off what we consider a democracy. A democracy should make voting the easiest thing that we do because we want everybody to participate. But someone who has to steal an election doesn't.
All right, folks, so let's talk about this nutcase in the White House. During Monday's General Motors tour in Milford, Michigan, the twice impeached, criminally convicted con-man-in-chief Donald Trump literally said something that was beyond stupid. Y'all, Michigan has been hit hard by his tariffs, particularly the automobile industry. Yet this dumbass claimed his historic tariffs are reinvigorating. You know what? I don't know why I'm reading all this. Just play it.
Oh, the fins at the back. I mean, this was really leading from a design perspective.
They've come a long way. It's amazing what tariffs will do for General Motors and what the election has done. They're doing great. General Motors is doing fantastically, the best year they've ever had. And I won't get into it, but there's a reason. We've been very good to General Motors. And the rest of the world doesn't love me, but that's okay. It's called America First. Right? It's been amazing.
Mr. President.
It's fantastic. You know Margot? She's been with me. Does anybody know Margot? Like, how well do you know Margot? She's been with me from...
Y'all, that's General Motors CEO Mary Barra. When can she know better? They've had slow job growth in Michigan. General Motors has lost more than $3 billion due to tariffs. They pretty much gutted their electric vehicle fleet because of Trump's hatred for EVs, also impacting their bottom line. Every GM executive standing there knew his ass was lying.
That's why they had that look on their face, Roland. I mean, it's the same look any of us would have on our face. They're flabbergasted. I mean, the scary thing is people continue to allow him to come to their businesses and make a fool out of them because it really looks crazy. But let's get into the facts. Like you said, we know that not only his tariffs have affected Michigan, but he's continued to tariff Canada right next door, who got so pissed off that they canceled the joint celebration that they were planning to have in conjunction with Michigan. And they've continued to find issue with Trump's policies. And I think the one person who had it right was Curtis Hurdle, the chairman of the Michigan Democratic Party, when he said he's happy the president's here campaigning with the Republicans because it shows that the Republicans actually don't want to do anything but, continue to kiss up to him, and they don't want to stand up for him. And he's terribly unpopular. I think Curtis is the only one who had it right. And unfortunately, he continued to make a charade out of himself at General Motors. It's a shame they let him do so.
We're talking a state that right across the river there, Mustafa, is Canada. Significant trade with that country, who Donald Trump has been attacking. Tariffs have absolutely wrecked the American economy.
Oh, without a doubt. I grew up, part of my youth was in Detroit. So I have family who worked in the auto industry, still work in the auto industry, and used to go across the bridge to Windsor. So, I know both sides of that bridge well. The tariffs have not been helpful to our country. Yes, there's been impacts to Canada also. He's talking about 50% tariffs once again in relationship to some of the products that are coming across from Canada. As was stated as well, these tariffs have also had huge impacts on the auto industry. We've lost 20,000 jobs in the auto industry over the last 2 years. Let me say that again, 20,000 good, hard-earned money working positions have been lost over the last 2 years, thanks to the policies that this administration has moved forward on. And then you talked about the electric vehicles, the vehicles of the future that actually help to make sure that folks breathe cleaner air. get better mileage for the charge, but he did not see value in that because he's so tied to the fossil fuel industry. So they continue to do all these missteps that, one, impact the economy, impact people's health, and then people stand beside him and smile. I understand. I've been out on, and visiting with presidents at different locations and other leaders of federal agencies, but at the same time, there comes a point when you have to push back. You can do it respectfully. You can have signage there that tells the truth about what's actually going on. But we continue to allow this misinformation and disinformation that hurts our country, is significantly going to hurt our country based upon the partnerships that we've had with folks who have been allies before. But it is really hurting the pocketbooks of everyday Americans because, now we're not making the money, the wealth gap is growing, and then, of course, people can't even get health care because they can't afford to go. So these are the things that are coming out of his tariffs. There have been nothing positive that have come out of the tariffs. And history has told us you have to be very selective of how you use tariffs. You do not put these broad stroke tariffs in place because there are many, many impacts that will happen. But he continues to give these false narratives, continues to put veneers over things, and continues to hurt our country.
Randy?
There is not one economist that says these tariffs have worked. But again, he is allowed to just keep pushing on. And it makes me literally nauseous that no one speaks up. No one seems to stop him. I have been shocked at the fragility of people, these people that we consider leaders. That GM would sit there and smile and have him there. It's disgusting to me. And I'm also struck, it takes a special kind of jacked up president to ruin our relationship with Canada. Do you know how hard that was to do? But he did it. He found a way where we have no good relations, it seems, with almost anybody because he's such a disgusting creature that the entire world knows exactly what we know and talk about. But the people around him continue to just treat him like a petulant child and allow him to get away with doing whatever he wants to do. And it impacts people every single day. Again, what you talk about, people losing their jobs. And when someone loses their jobs, we know that affects families, that affects schools, that affects the entire county and country. And so it's just sad that they're allowing this madman to run around and do what he wants to do, even when it has proven to be destructive to our economy and to our country.
Well, that is absolutely the case. And so I don't know what the hell these people are sitting here doing. All right, let me go to a break. When we come back, Tuskegee, boy, they've got people riled up regarding their new dress code. They've said do-rags, bonnets, and house slippers. Don't bring that bullshit on campus. We'll discuss next right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, let me get personal for a second. My mom had questions about her Medicare, so she called Chapter, a Medicare advisory company, and she texted me right after saying it's a great benefit. It was easy. A real person walked her through the whole thing, and now she understands better what's going on. But it's not just her. A woman in Yonkers wrote in saying the process was so simple, the enrollment was easy, and she was so glad she called. Then there's Marilyn, 90 years old, in Florida, living on Social Security. Her premium climbed every single year north of $400 a month for coverage she could barely afford anymore. So what does she do? She called Chapter. They found her the same top-tier coverage for hundreds of dollars less. 90 years old, and finally somebody in her corner. I hear stories like that again and again from our community. The Medicare system was not built to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans. Yet Chapter's advisors are independent and honest, the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. They're focused on one thing, what actually works for you. If you're already in the right plan, they'll tell you. No games. People who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100 a year. All it takes is 20 minutes. You talk to a real person, and it's completely free help. So call Chapter at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281. That's Chapter.
Ask you a question. Why do so many people seem to think they know black men so well? What they think we want, what they think we need. Hell, they even tried to tell us why and how we voted, but never had a conversation with us. Never asked us how we felt, what brings us joy, what makes us angry, what makes us scared. How do we live? That's what this show is about. No translation. because we don't need anybody speaking for us. We can speak for ourselves. This will be a show where we bring brothers on that you don't see on every other talk show. Nope. Brothers that are doing work in local communities with black men for black communities. We're going to hear each other and try to understand so perhaps we can move forward together. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. Nope. What we need is each other. No translation, right here on the Black Star Network. Check it out.
Hey, this is Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. That boy, he always unfiltered though. I ain't never known him to be filtered. Is there another way to experience Roland Martin than to be unfiltered? Of course he's unfiltered. Would you expect anything less? Watch what happens next.
All right, y'all. Tuskegee's new president has updated the university manual, and that includes a dress code. President Dr. Mark A. Brown sent out a welcome letter to students outlining the new policy and behavioral standards for the academic school year. Dear Tuskegee University students, we're excited to welcome you to Tuskegee University next month as you are arriving at an extraordinary time in the university's history. Tuskegee has entered its Renaissance era of transformation and renewal, and we are expecting a 32-year new student enrollment high in August. Tuskegee is focused on challenging you academically with resources to ensure graduation while preparing you for the workplace. You're required to find internships in their area of interest, identify certifications to enhance professional skills, and develop a resume. There are more than 30 certifications you can get at Tuskegee at no additional cost. You must also visit the University Career Center in Kinney Hall. It is there where you'll be able to connect with potential employers, internships, and learn more about career opportunities long before your senior year. You cannot wait until you are a senior to focus on your career options. The university has developed a new policy for student attire on campus, classroom attendance, and cell phone use in classrooms. Tuskegee students now have a dress code for public and professional places. The student handbook requires students to arrive on campus with a business suit and proper shoes for a business meeting. Students are prohibited from wearing revealing clothing in class, to the cafeteria, or in official settings like convocation. They're also not able to wear bedroom shoes, bonnets, or do-rags to class or the cafeteria. Faculty will be empowered to respond to students who are inappropriately dressed based on these guidelines. Faculty will also be able to respond to a different classroom challenge, cell phones. Unless directed by the professor, students are no longer allowed to use their cell phones while in class. They should be turned off to eliminate any distraction from the instructor's lesson. We are attaching the attendance policy to minimize any confusion around attendance. Students are required to go to class. That is the heart of all academic success, and we track attendance. The goal here is not meant to restrict you from enjoying the Tuskegee experience, but to prepare you with a solid foundation for the workforce you will enter once you leave Tuskegee. Employers are less forgiving, and too often presentation may overrule stellar preparation. Tuskegee University continues to prepare the best and brightest for a lifetime of success. With these changes, we want to ensure every student is as prepared as they can be. I look forward to seeing you in August. We reached out to Tuskegee University to have the president or representative on, but they were unavailable. We definitely want to have them on very soon. Now this, of course, as usual, when you factor in Threads, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook and everything else, explodes into a social media conversation. Now it's about respectability politics. It's about being anti-black. Conscious Lee said Tuskegee passed a horrible policy. As somebody with a master's in adult higher education, policing how students show up to class will never lead to higher class attendance and does not lead to higher graduation rates. Okay? Which means dress for success is a claim based in fallacy. Here's another post from No Slino. Dress for success has the same underlying tone as massa coming to be. It just sounds coonish. Like, why are you associating success with looks? Kingpin 202. What about Yamaka's, Kufis, and the Hija? I'm not reading the rest of these. Let me get to the panel. Randy, you're a Tuskegee graduate. Here's my problem. Okay. They didn't link a dress code to attendance.
They didn't.
The memo addressed attendance. Here's the other thing. They did not say, tell me if I'm wrong, I did not hear bonnets are banned from campus. I did not hear that house shoes are banned from campus. I didn't hear that do-rags are banned from campus. What I read was you can't wear them to class or the cafeteria. What the hell is the problem?
There should be no problem. As a Tuskegee graduate, a proud Tuskegee graduate, I was there from 88 to 92. I was very pleased to see the changes that were happening. And of course, this is an overall change. They're not just talking about, everyone's focusing on do-rags and bonnets, where they also are talking about just a renaissance and changing things and improving what's happening at the university, which is what you want your leaders to do. That's what you would want to happen at any corporation or a higher institution, where you look at it and say, how can we improve? So I'm sure the phones were disruptive to people's learning. I'm sure people coming to class who are scantily dressed could be distracting to higher learning. How do we get people to feel you can't learn if you're not attending classes? So it was an overall restructuring and a set of rules. And it's unfortunate that the only thing that they're focusing on in all this brouhaha is over bonnets and do-rags. When you think about it, my mother sent me to school to get a job, okay? She knew she wasn't going to take care of me later. I don't know a job right now, whether it be wrong or right, where I am allowed to wear a do-rag or a bonnet. Now, people have been saying, oh, what if you work from home? Well, if you work from home, that's fine. But Tuskegee's job is to prepare me to work anywhere, to become employable, or at least go to another school to get another degree. There's always been a code of conduct anywhere you go. And so why are you sending your child to Tuskegee, or why are you going to Tuskegee if you're not willing to learn and to rise to certain standards? I was thinking about, many years ago, I had a meeting at a major tech company, and we were talking about, DEI, and the woman shared with me, she said, I really wish, should I meet a lot of brilliant Black candidates, but it's almost as if they need a finishing school, because sometimes, because of our state in this country, these are first-time people who are attending college, or no one has taught us how to write a resume, which is a part of the new program that Tuskegee, the new renaissance that they are implementing. How to dress, what it means to show up on time, that it's actually 15 minutes early. So attendance is important. They haven't learned those things. So while, yes, these people may be brilliant, they have earned a degree, they don't know some of the things that you need to know to make it in corporate America. They don't know the rules. So what Tuskegee is saying is they're taking on their responsibility and saying, we're going to teach these children and prepare them for the workplace. We're going to set a standard, which I don't know where else they don't do that. And I just want to say one more thing. Well, I've heard two things. One, people have said, well, I'm paying for my education, so I should be able to wear what I want to wear. And I'm saying, when you pay for your meal in a restaurant, it doesn't mean you can wear a bikini and show up. And then secondly, what people are saying is that at white schools, they don't police your hair, your bonnets, your do-rags. And I don't believe white schools are even thinking about how to prepare our students to function in a white racist society. How do we prepare our students, our Black students, to be able to excel in this world as it is? They're not trying to liberate you. It's not because they want you to have more freedom. It's that they're completely ambivalent to you and toward our cause.
Okay. When Coney, here's what really bothers me. Folk automatically jump to, oh, this anti-Black. First, are bonnets only a Black thing? Do-rags, house slippers. Man, I went to Texas A&M. You know what I couldn't stand the most? them goddamn loud ass thong slippers and sitting here and all you hearing is popping when somebody's walking in class. It's like it's smacking. I mean, I sit here and I'm just like, yo, what are we doing? Like, what the hell are we doing? All of these people are commenting on do-rags, bonnets, and slippers, but they ain't got nothing to say about requiring them to have internships and get certifications. I'm just sitting here going, really? Really? Are we tripped? Really? And you come to class. Like, that's a problem? Saying, hey, yo, you can't. They didn't say you can't wear cargo shorts. They didn't say, oh, you must have, like at a country club, a collared shirt. Go ahead.
So, Randy, I didn't go to Tuskegee. I went to Howard, and we got our own stuff to deal with right now. But what I will say on Tuskegee right now is that I don't see any problem with what Dr. Brown has implemented. And I got to say this as like the resident young person on the panel right now, that I guess this is going to get people in a tizzy, but I do think that young Black students need to embody rigor, not only in how they show up for class and how they dress. How I was taught in my home was how you show up indicates a lot about how A, the teacher is going to treat you, B, how your classmates are going to receive you, and B, what position and posture you're in to learn, right? So if I show up in the thing that I went to sleep with, because we're not only talking about do-rags and bonnets, right? We're also talking about house slippers. If I show up to school in my pajamas, am I equipped to learn that day? Realistically, the answer is no. I'm still asleep. I haven't showered. I haven't brushed my teeth. I haven't really started my day. I haven't activated myself. Let's also talk about decorum in terms of honoring our professors. You know, one of the things I love is being on here with Dr. Carr sometimes, because that was my professor at Howard University. Do you know how much of an honor that is sometimes to share the stage with him? I came from a tradition that we used to honor our elders, right? I would not show up and hug and kiss my grandmother with a bonnet or do-rag on, because I'm in the presence of someone that I consider an elder, right? So if I'm in class with someone who's taken their time out to really dedicate themselves to the education of young Black students, and I can't get dressed in a way that's considered or deemed appropriate, what am I really doing there, right? I think what Tuskegee University is trying to do is continue their tradition of excellence that was started by their founder, W.E.B. Du Bois. And if we really think about where, you know, what the policies that and the philosophies that Du Bois embodied, this is not too far from it, right? All we're asking here, it's not about respectability politics. It's about how young and Black boys and Black girls are going to show up in the world and how they're going to be received. We already know, Roland, that we have to be twice as good. How are we going to be able to do that if we're not stepping up to the plate in terms of how we're showing up in the classroom? That starts with the outside, and that starts with how we look when we show up to learn. So we really have to make sure that we're understanding the importance of this. It's not only about what the student looks like, but it's about their mind posture and their heart posture when they step in the classroom. And I just don't believe that it can be in the right space when you're not really dressed like you got up from sleep. So I really think we got to think about that and evaluate that. But I know this is going to cause tensions within the Black community, but I say let it, because we have to get back to our standard of Black excellence.
Mustafa, this is the Virginia Union University dress code. The items below provide an overview of items prohibited by the VUU dress code, but not limited to, except in the residence halls and at designated university activities and events, on and off campus. Pajamas, bathrobes, bras, lingerie, and boxer shorts worn in public spaces and or as outerwear, except in the residence halls. Bedroom slippers, except in the residence halls. Pants worn in a baggy fashion, mid-hip with undergarments revealed. Undershirts, wife beaters without a top shirt except in the residence halls. Appearing in public spaces without a shirt, top, or blouse except in the residence halls. Do-rags, head rags, scarves, and bonnets for men and women except in the residence halls. caps and hats for men and women worn inside of buildings, except for the residence halls or with permission from an administrator. Curlers, rollers, and other items used to groom hair, except in the residence halls. Shirts worn as head wraps, except in the residence halls. Hoodies with hoods over the head while inside a building. Micro mini skirts, midriff shirts, see-through blouses, low-cut blouses, and or other such attire that revealed excessive cleavage in classroom buildings. Clothing, jewelry, hats, and other garments and or other accessories with obscene or offensive language, gestures, and or profanity, or the display allude to drugs, drug paraphernalia, and other illegal substances. Students are expected to use good judgment in determining what to wear at special events. Examples of special events are new student orientation activities, fall convocation, Founders Day, career fairs, on-campus interviews, honors programs, and convocation. The attire for these events is outlined below. Dress pants, no jeans, business suit, dress shirt, tie, and dress shoes. Professional, skirt, blouses, dress or two-piece suit, skirt or pants, and dress shoes. Students requesting special permission for head attire due to religious affiliation should give notice to the Dean of Students' office.
They're setting expectations, right? Instead of having the bare minimum, they're saying this is how we are going to show up on that particular campus. My grandfather was a farmer and a coal miner. And there was many times when, he had the coal dust on him or he had dirt on him, but as soon as he could get that off of him, he made sure that he was always sharp. He was sharp because he had an expectation for our family and for himself that we would be honored, and that he always pumped into us that we were special. And with that specialness, it was just the expectation that we were going to not only show up a certain way, but we were going to also make sure that we were well prepared. And I see so many of my folks who I love dearly not understand how truly special they are. And with those folks who often talk about oppressors and colonizers, which is a real conversation, if you actually understood history, you would understand that when we presented ourselves in a certain way, when we dressed in a certain way, that's when they would call us uppity. That's when they would try and knock us down a peg. And they no longer have to do that in many instances now because we do it ourselves. We go to the lowest common denominator in the way that we present ourselves and then wonder why, we're not exceeding in the way that we need to. Yes, there are policies. Yes, there have been sets of actions that are out there, but we also have to make sure that we are preparing ourselves to be able to navigate all of those things, to be able to get over the hurdles. And one of those is how we show up. So you have a right, but if you choose to go to an institution and they share with you what their set of expectations are, if you don't want to go to Tuskegee, you don't have to go to Tuskegee. You can go someplace else that might have a lower set of expectations, but you're also missing out on the opportunity to go to a historic institution, and they should have a set of values. They should have a set of expectations because they are trying to prepare you to be as amazing as you possibly can be and to be able to navigate this world that when you step outside those doors, you're going to have to deal with.
This is Hampton's dress code. Examples of inappropriate dress and or appearance. Do-rags, stocking caps, skull caps, and bandanas prohibited at all times on the campus of Hampton University, except in the privacy of the students' living quarters. Head coverings and hoods for men in any building. Baseball caps and hoods for women in any building. This policy does not apply to headgear considered as part of a religious or cultural dress. Bare feet, shorts that reveal buttocks, shorts, all types of jeans at programs dictating professional or formal attire, such as musical arts, fall convocation, Founders Day, and commencement, clothing with derogatory, offensive, and or lewd messages, either in words or pictures. Men's undershirts of any color worn outside of the private living quarters of the residence hall. Sports jerseys without a conventional T-shirt underneath. Men and women's pants that show underwear. They lay it out right here. And I guess what drives me crazy, and y'all can jump in, what drives me crazy is when we resort to, Oh, that's white folks. Oh, that's white folks. Oh, you try to do the work of massa.
That's the part that's angering me the most, is because people act as if, it reminds me when people would say, you're talking white because you're using proper grammar. And I'm like, why would you give white people that much credit as if we're the only, like, we can't speak proper English? Everything Black doesn't have to be associated with something negative. To me, one of the things I've loved about us as a people is that we take pride in how we look. You know, I told a story about on Sunday mornings when I would, you know, all the my grandmother and grandfather would take us all to church, all their grandchildren, all the cousins, and we'd be dressed to the nines. And it was about Black people gathering, and we weren't dressing for white people. There wasn't a white person in sight, but we took so much pride in how we looked. And even those of us who did not even have the money to buy something fancy, they would iron their clothes so well to ensure they looked as sharp as they possibly could. And it was a sense of pride. Even now, when we go around, Black people always stand out because of how well we dress. We take pride in it, and we have actually talked poorly about unmelanated people, how they will wear the pajama pants and the sloppy ponytails and don't seem to care about how they look. Part of Blackness has always been pride in your presentation. And to say that it's anti-Black to say you should not wear something that you typically sleep in outdoors is absolutely the opposite. It's Black pride, it's Blackness, it's loving ourselves to say, I want us to represent ourselves well when we're with each other. Because what do they think Tuskegee is but a campus full, I was there, of Black students with Black professors who are sacrificing themselves. They're not there for the money, they're there for the purpose. To be there to teach us, to teach a generation, to make the Black community even stronger. And we should take pride in how we look and go to class. And it's business. School is business. Yes, you have a blast. I had a blast at Tuskegee, but I was there for a purpose. That is what college is. It's not just to do what you want to do. And I think it's unfortunate that some people are pushing that narrative.
What I don't understand is they didn't ban Crocs, they didn't ban Skechers, they didn't ban loafers, they banned slippers that are meant to sit beside your bed so your ass can walk across the floor. I'm like, y'all, really? Like, people are really getting in their feelings because they said no bonnets and do-rags. And here's the crazy thing. That's only the 3 of the things that they added in the new draft. This is an example of, I think, first of all, let's be real clear. Social media is not the real world. 2, the algorithm is built to drive outrage. So folk will see something on social media and will think, oh my God, this thing is blown up like crazy. No, it didn't. It's what those folks are. But I'm sorry, y'all, it ain't this major. It ain't this major. And the other thing is this here. It's called standards. And as one of y'all said, it was Mustafa, I think, if you don't like the dress code, take your ass somewhere else. Like, listen, coming out of college, actually, I hadn't even graduated yet. I interned at the Birmingham News. The Birmingham News had a policy. Anytime a reporter left the building, they were required to have a jacket on, a blazer. We talking Alabama. Now, I'm from Houston. I thought that was dumb as hell, especially when it's hot, to require your ass wearing a blazer. okay, and I can't remember if it was a blazer and a tie. It might have been a blazer and a tie. Now, when I worked at, first of all, I didn't get that job because all the editors, I interviewed with 16 editors, they all wanted to hire me, but Alabama had a state law that says they can deny you a job because of your credit report. And the HR department hit me up. And anytime I speak in Birmingham or Alabama, I tell that story so I can say how the Birmingham News screwed up by never hiring me. So I ain't got no problem ever telling that story. But y'all, that's so here's the deal. If I did not want to always wear a jacket when reporting, don't go work the Birmingham News. This is not hard. You are more than welcome. Tuskegee is not the only university in Alabama. It is not the only HBCU in Alabama. So I'm just saying, y'all, feel free to go somewhere if you want to wear your bonnets and your house slippers and your do-rags to class and the cafeteria. All right, last week, Ohio Congresswoman Joyce Beatty testified before a joint Democratic oversight shadow hearing hosted by the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform and the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations, detailing her successful lawsuit against the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief Donald Trump's unlawful attempt to rename the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts and putting his name on it, and also highlighting how the administration continues to prioritize costly vanity projects over the needs of the American people.
Today's hearing, monumental waste on how Donald Trump is spending taxpayers' dollars on national landmarks like the Kennedy Center. My testimony will focus on fighting back against Trump's unlawful renaming of the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, the only living memorial for President Kennedy. It's about whether powerful people can rewrite history, seize public institutions, and silence dissent. The unlawful renaming of the Kennedy Center is another example of Trump's disregard of the rule of law and our Constitution. I became the face of this fight because someone had to stand up. At the end of the day, it wasn't about fighting for myself. I was fighting for the rule of law and for an institution that belongs to the American people. Trump began his takeover of the Kennedy Center by handpicking his sycophants to the Board of Trustees to rubber stamp his plans. By law, certain members of Congress serve as ex-official members of the Kennedy Center's Board of Trustees, like myself. Trump then illegally stripped ex-officio members of their rights to vote in board meetings. During the December 18th, 2025 virtual meeting, I was muted, silencing me when the vote occurred to change the name. On December 22nd, 2025, I filed the lawsuit, Beatty v. Trump, in federal court to remind the president that there are consequences for unlawful actions and that one cannot simply rewrite federal law. From December 2025 to March 2026, a series of filings and hearings occurred. I appeared before the Federal District Court Judge Christopher R. Cooper on March 12th. Might add, that was my birthday, 2026. On May 30th, 2026, Judge Cooper ruled that the Kennedy Center trustees acted unlawfully when they renamed the institution to include Donald Trump's name. Further, the court reaffirmed separation of powers by stating that only Congress has the authority to rename the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. Judge Cooper also ordered every reference to Trump's name to be removed, including the website, branding, transportation, and signage on the front of the building. On June 12, 2026, the day day the sign was ordered to come down, I stood with hundreds of people at the Kennedy Center for approximately 11 hours as scaffolding and a tarp were erected. At 4 a.m. on Saturday, June 13th, I witnessed the name had been removed. In addition to the name being removed, Judge Cooper also blocked Trump's planned 2-year shutdown of the Kennedy Center. Justice prevailed. No longer silenced, no longer prevented from attending and voting in board meetings. The name had come down. The Kennedy Center is the home to the National Symphony Orchestra and thousands of artists, performers, students, advisors, and families like many here today, especially Mr. Ben Folds. Once it became apparent that the Trump and the board's unlawful actions led artists to canceling and refusing to play the Kennedy Center, it appeared that Trump decided that his own personal ego outweighed the thousands of artists and the workers who rely on the Kennedy Center for their livelihood. The court's most recent ruling made clear that the Trump administration must explain 2 things by July 31st. Why the Kennedy Center remains covered by a massive tarp, and what is he covering up, and what concrete plans they have to keep the building open. I'd like to convey my appreciation to the House Oversight Committee and the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations for holding this hearing today. In these difficult times, American people deserve better than a president who is more focused on slapping his name on buildings than helping people lower the cost of groceries. Yes, I would have preferred to be here talking about affordability and helping working families rather than discussing Trump's vanity projects and petty acts of defiance. Thank you, and I yield back.
Well, Missouri Congressman Wesley Bell ripped Trump's vanity projects.
Congressman Beatty, I just want to echo everybody's sentiments about the fight that you endured on behalf of the Kennedy Center and on behalf of the American people. I want to be the first person to say that President Trump's attempts to remake all of these institutions in his likeness is incredibly tacky. Congresswoman Beatty, one thing that struck me was in your lawsuit, when the government argued that changing the name was necessary to revitalize the center, which would go into financial and structural collapse unless they attached a Trump name to it. I wonder if the government was aware of Trump stakes in Trump University. In my hometown of Houston, like in many other places across this country, families are struggling to make ends meet. They can't afford their first home. They can't afford the cost of utilities. Many can't afford summer camp for their kids. So it's hard to watch this president spend $1 billion on ballrooms, on gold trim, and on fonts for a Trump center, while telling the rest of us that there's no money left. There are no kings in America, and the American people didn't sign up to personally fund one man's vanity projects. I want to start with you, Mr. Gollinger. In April, the administration handed out 2 no-bid contracts. No competition, no public bidding process to clean and repaint the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool. One contract worth $1.7 million went to a company owned by this gentleman that we've talked about, Mr. Cafaro, who has pled guilty in 2010 to campaign finance violations and had previously pled guilty to conspiring to bribe a federal official. And we all know that he's given big money to President Trump's campaign. Weeks after that cleanup was finished, the pool turned green with one of the biggest algae blooms in years, and the fresh blue paint started peeling and floating on the surface. Now, I've got 5 years in local government, serving as the county attorney for the largest county in Texas, as the chief civil lawyer. 10 years before that in doing investigations for large companies. I have never, in all of my time, seen a no-bid contract handed to somebody with a bribery conviction. So my question to you is, in your work tracking government contracts, and I know you have some experience in local government as well, how often does the government hand a no-bid confidential contract to someone with a bribery conviction?
It's a very bad idea. I mean, I certainly would say in San Francisco where I worked, I mean, that was a deal breaker, obviously, immediately. The only line would be if someone is accused. People have the right to defend themselves, but that doesn't appear to be the case here. And the problem, of course, is that at minimum, the public faith that this contract was done properly and effectively, and that most of the money is going to actually do the job instead of back into someone's pocket is completely eroded. And so that should be absolutely never, that should be something that absolutely never happens again.
All of the incentives are eroded, and if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Ambassador Eisen, we are kindred spirits. You've talked a lot about all of your litigation experience against the Trump administration. In my last job, I spent a bunch of time litigating and beating the Trump administration because their lawyers are not good. But I want to talk to you about the rule of law in institutions in this country and the role that they play in holding this administration accountable. We have seen action after action taken against the Trump administration because they have stepped outside of the bounds of the Constitution and the law. From layoffs of federal employees to what we've seen at the Kennedy Center, the reversal of the plain text of the Constitution and birthright citizenship, cuts of grant funds, which impacted local governments and nonprofits across this country, and of course the firing of Fed Governor Lisa Cook. This is just a few of the list of things. How important are the courts in ensuring that we keep a rogue president within the confines of the Constitution and the laws of this nation?
We were very honored at Democracy Defenders to help put together the team, to serve as part of the team that defended Dr. Cook up to and including the Supreme Court. Winning at the Supreme Court, it was a bipartisan team protecting her and the Federal Reserve, the independence of our nation's monetary policy, and the prosperity of every American. The courts were essential in that case, Congressman, as they have been in our over 300 matters, the well over 600 cases that courts have addressed. And in particular, I want to salute the trial courts of the country. We just had a tremendous win in front of it. A judge who was appointed by Donald Trump, but he quashed a subpoena. You know how hard it is to do that. He quashed a Trump administration subpoena, unduly interfering with election processes in Fulton County, Georgia. And so our trial judges have been absolutely essential. We've been keeping them busy. One said to me from the bench, "We can't do our job unless you do yours." So we're going to keep these cases coming, and in particular, we're going to protect this election. It all comes down to that, the future of our democracy. We're going to defend it.
In closing, Madam Chairwoman, there are three co-equal branches of government, and when the president steps out of line, you need the other two to step in. So I'm so grateful for the folks who have been involved in ensuring that the courts step in, but it's time for Congress to do its job, and for the Republican members of Congress to exercise their authority to investigate and hold this administration accountable. I yield back, Madam Chairwoman.
Texas Congressman out of Houston, Christian Menifee there, not Wesley Bell. So glad to see Congresswoman Beatty again challenge this administration and their sheer nonsense. More of that is needed, Mustafa.
Oh, most definitely. You got to put a spotlight on this foolishness that's going on. First of all, Representative Menifee, that excellent questioning. You know, I spent a lot of time around contracting when I was in the federal government. I know it's 24 to 60 months if you've had a bribery or something or fraud, those types of things. And that's why you don't have these contracts, these no-bid contracts where you just push stuff through, which has become, you know, one of the things that this current administration does. And then you get what you get. You get individuals with all these problems in their background and don't know how to actually do what they've been hired to do. And then, of course, the Congresswoman, she's just amazing because she raises a very serious issue. So not only there at the Kennedy Center, but, you know, that $1.5 billion that they've wasted so far all across Washington, D.C., whether you're talking about at the White House, you're talking about at the reflecting pool, you're talking about a number of these places that folks never been to, like Columbia Circle or Lafayette Park. They continue to make mistakes because they continue to, one, push his agenda, two, they have contractors that don't know what they're doing. And there's multiple stories out there about how they continue to just have this rampage going on across the city and end up leaving these problems probably for the next administration. So we've got to have folks who continue to put a spotlight on it so folks know what's going on. And the last thing I'll say is that Congress has got to step up. They have a responsibility to protecting people's tax dollars, and they're not doing their job. And they're leaving people, of course, wondering, they're trying to figure out how they're going to feed their family, and they're watching all these things that are going on in Washington, D.C. that just don't make sense.
Randy?
Again, I have to shout out, it seems like it's Black women who are not scared to stand up. I was so proud of Representative Beatty and how she fought all that debacle at the Kennedy Center and actually, filed suit. I tell people it's like, let's at least try to make what they're doing inconvenient instead of just laying back and letting them run amok and accepting it and not fighting back. So I was just so proud, and everyone was excited to see that, he lost that fight when it came to the Kennedy Center, which is very beloved in Washington, D.C. And those people who are out there right now who don't live in Washington, D.C., I just want you to understand now it feels almost as if you're in another country because this man has tried to plaster his face and name everywhere you look. It is a disgusting display of an egomaniac who just wants to just be everywhere. It is quite disgusting. And so again, it motivates me when I see people fighting back because it seems so many people just don't care. And definitely the message needed to be sent to Congress like, hello, you have a job to do, and that's for your people.
Winconi?
Yeah, as Randy alluded to, Black women continue to save democracy in this country. And Congresswoman Beatty certainly is a testament to that. I also just want to point out the fact that this is the reason why it's so important to have diversity on boards, because if you think about it, if she wasn't an ex-official trustee of the Kennedy Center as a member of Congress, perhaps nobody would have stood up for this, right? So I encourage people to get involved with their boards, get involved with the arts. These are things that maybe people don't see as important sometimes in their everyday life, but they have really big implications. And I definitely feel like them muting her that day, them silencing her was the biggest mistake they could have made. And the way that she's been able to push back and preserve a national landmark and really show us the power of checks and balances in action is something to be heralded for.
All right, folks, got to go to a break. We come back. Our shop, BlackStarNetwork.com marketplace segment. Back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, let me get personal for a second. My mom had questions about her Medicare, so she called Chapter, a Medicare advisory company, and she texted me right after saying it's a great benefit. It was easy. A real person walked her through the whole thing, and now she understands better what's going on. But it's not just her. A woman in Yonkers wrote in saying the process was so simple, the enrollment was easy, and she was so glad she called. Then there's Marilyn, 90 years old, in Florida, living on Social Security. Her premium climbed every single year north of $400 a month for coverage she could barely afford anymore. So what does she do? She called Chapter. They found her the same top-tier coverage for hundreds of dollars less. 90 years old, and finally somebody in her corner. I hear stories like that again and again from our community. The Medicare system was not built to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans. Yet Chapter's advisors are independent and honest, the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. They're focused on one thing, what actually works for you. If you're already in the right plan, they'll tell you. No games. And people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100 a year. All it takes is 20 minutes. You talk to a real person, and it's completely free help. So call Chapter at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281. That's Chapter.
Ask you a question. Why do so many people seem to think they know black men so well? What they think we want, what they think we need. Hell, they even tried to tell us why and how we voted, but never had a conversation with us. Never asked us how we felt, what brings us joy, what makes us angry, what makes us scared. How do we live? That's what this show is about. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. we can speak for ourselves. This will be a show where we bring brothers on that you don't see on every other talk show. Nope. Brothers that are doing work in local communities with black men for black communities. We're going to hear each other and try to understand so perhaps we can move forward together. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. Nope. What we need is each other. No translation, right here on the Black Star Network. Check it out.
How you doing? My name is Mark Carey, and you're watching Roland Martin, unfiltered, deep into it, like pasteurized milk without the 2%. We getting deep. You want to turn that shit off? We're doing an interview, motherfucker.
Having textured hair, many people may have had combs stack, pull, and break on wash day. Well, detangling your hair doesn't have to feel like a chore with COS-MOL-O-GY, this hair care brand. There's a series of hair tools called the Curls Plus Detangler, designed to make working with textured hair a breeze. Co-founder Letitia Stirrup joins us now from Miami. Okay, what happened in starting this? You had some rough situations with certain brushes?
Yes. Good evening, Roland. Pleasure to meet you. Absolutely. When I decided to go natural in 2008, the marketplace looked very different. At the time, my hair was really big and long. And as a working professional, I just could not continue to struggle with detangling my hair. You were starting to see a lot of fantastic brands emerge on the scene, and something always felt like it was missing. So we decided to get into the tools side of the game. So we launched our hair tools under the brand COS-MOL-O-GY in 2019. And what we did is that we basically adapted the idea of finger detangling into the shape of the teeth on our hair tools. So when you look at our hair tools, the teeth are long, smooth, and round, mimicking the shape of your finger. So when you're talking about detangling your hair, you'll be able to get through really thick sections of hair at once, making your wash day a lot easier. We also make them multifunctional. So as you can see, I can part and section with the same tool and then detangle as well with it and style. So as you can see, as I'm combing through the hair goes all the way through the hair tool and it's not scratching at the surface.
Yeah, this is a big ass brush.
It is, because we have big ass hair, Roland.
So it's also heavy.
This is not for the teen. You know, we wanted to make sure that we could care for those who have thick textured hair.
Yeah,
There's a lot of hair tools that exist.
I could have.
We need to do something for us.
Yeah, I could have used this when I was in elementary school with an afro. I can't use this right now.
Right.
So, but it's also it's heavy duty. So as you said, you got brush, and then you have this piece right here.
Exactly. So it's a sectioning tip. So you can see that the section is smooth and is, again, kind of giving you that same like finger action. So a lot of us will sometimes use our fingers to part our hair. But if you have a fresh manicure or you maybe need to get a manicure, you know that your nails can kind of snag your hair sometimes, which can cause a lot of pain. So if you have a hair tool that you can use the handle to just do it all in one. And because our teeth are long and it's a big ass brush, like you said, you can get through really thick sections of hair instead of with other hair tools where the teeth are really small and they're flimsy. You have to do smaller sections, which of course adds to the time that it takes to detangle. So we have our paddle comb. We call it a paddle comb because it's like a wide tooth comb and a brush in one. And then we have our pick, which you saw in the video. So with the pick, again, you can add volume to the hair without making it frizz because the teeth are very wide, which also, again, just makes, and you can use it, as you can see in the video, to detangle the hair. If you're on the go, it's compact. It can fit in your clutch, your baby bag, and even men who have really thick beards, they can use it as a beard comb, and it won't snag the hair. So we also have it in this graphite color as well. We need a little bit more hair.
No. I literally cannot stand thick beards. I just can't. Listen, what you see right here is,
that's it.
I actually went a month without, it drove my ass crazy. I had to trim it. I could not go longer than a month. And so I usually max go 2 days. It got to come down. So, all right. So this pick is different, unlike the pick with the fist that people normally have just sticking in their head.
Exactly. We wanted something that, again, can go in your clutch.
And also, again, this is a heavy-duty pick. Most of those are lightweight picks. No, this got some weight to it.
Yes, exactly. And then also we designed it to have a nice little grip right here as well. So it's easy. It almost feels like an extension of your hand. And because it is thick, the teeth are not gonna pop on you. I mean, who wants that? When you're in the middle of combing your hair and doing your hair and teeth break off in the middle of it, it could just ruin your whole mood while you're trying to get ready to do your thing for the day. So we wanted to make sure that when you're using our hair tools, you know that they are going to last and they will perform the way that you need them to perform. We have had tons of people who have had our hair tools since we launched them in 2019, and they can still use them to this day. So that's a testament to the quality of the hair tools and what we did with the design.
Question for the panel. Randy, you first.
Yes. You are doing the Lord's work. Because you called, those days when you're having to do your natural hair a ritual. But we know for a lot of us, it's a headache. It's so hard. So I noticed that the products are so durable because I believe many in the natural hair care business create tools that are for looser textured hair, which is not my testimony. So thank you for what you're doing. What has been the feedback that you've gotten from distributors that are, selling products that are for hair, like the Sally's Beauty Supply and things like that? Are you selling there?
Yeah, so we are. So we have had various retail partnerships over the years. We've been on HSN. We're currently in CVS and we're in Walmart. We've been with Target. We've been with Urban Outfitters. So we've been in a few different retail spaces. And one of the things that works really well for us is that we are so different. To your point, right? You have a lot of the sort of like paddle brushes with the flexible bristles, which for those of us with, like you said, really thick hair, it feels like it's just scratching at the surface, right? It doesn't really kind of comb through and give you that, like, I know that this is actually touching my roots and my hair.
Yes.
And so also to that point, the teeth on the tips of our hair tools, they're round, again, giving you that same kind of like finger experience. And when you look at other hair tools, a lot of times the teeth are kind of pointy or they're like square, so it kind of scratches at the scalp. So we also want to take that into consideration too. And for those who wear wigs and extensions, you spend a lot of money on your hair when you're doing that, protective styling. Exactly. So because the teeth are round, they're not going to scratch the lace. So it helps with that too. And it can really smooth the follicles of the hair on the wigs and extensions. So these work fantastic if you're rocking your curls or you protecting them under a wig.
Thank you.
Win Cody.
Yeah, so you're a Miami girl. I wanted to know if you guys were available in retail stores in Miami or throughout the continental United States.
Yeah, we are. So we have distribution sort of nationwide, but through select stores. So you can definitely find us in Miami. We're in DC, we're in New York, we're in California. We're in a variety of different places for sure. And we're going to be on the marketplace. So you don't have to go far. You go right there to the Black Star Marketplace and find us.
Awesome. Amazing.
Mustafa.
COS-MOL-O-GY. What's the significance of that?
So if you've ever tried to come up with a product or a brand, sometimes it could be a little bit difficult to secure a brand name that you want because everything is taken from a .com perspective. So we wanted to get a little creative and we started to look at brand names and retail experiences that sort of gave you an ambiance without it actually dictating exactly what was inside the store. And because we are in the space of creativity and really kind of honoring the space of not only creating something new when it comes to hair care, but empowering people with textured hair to create and have fun with their hair, we decided to go with the name COS-MOL-O-GY. So the way that you see it spelled is the phonetic spelling, but if you understand what the word cosmology means, it deals with the creation of the universe. So that again just ties back into who we are. We are creators, we are innovators, we think of new things, and sometimes we have to make do with what we have, but we want to make sure that with COS-MOL-O-GY, we come to the table with solutions that directly speak to the needs of the customers we are serving.
All right, folks, so go to shopblackstarnetwork.com and check out the products from COS-MOL-O-GY. Again, you see them right there, shopblackstarnetwork.com, and you have different offerings there. And so certainly support them, and we support them. You support us as well. Latoya, we certainly appreciate it. Congratulations. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that is it for us. Let me thank Winkuni, Randy, as well as Mustafa for being on today's show. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. Glad to have all of y'all here as well. Don't forget, if y'all want to support the work that we do me a favor, join our Bring the Funk fan club. We don't have millionaires and billionaires supporting this show. We don't have folks writing us massive checks, things along those lines. But what we also do is we do the work. We talk about the issues other folks don't talk about. Let me be real clear. It's a lot of folks with shows. There's a lot of people out here talking about the things that are going on. But the reality is we center black people, okay? This is not a show where we're trying to appeal to mainstream interests. We are centering African Americans. We do that deliberately, and then that's what our focus is. And so we appreciate your support, and we will continue to do that. So if you want to join us via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here on the screen. That's also for credit cards as well. And of course, if you're listening, go to blackstarnetwork.com where you can get more details in terms of ways to give. Now, checks and money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo RM Unfiltered. Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Don't forget, download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox, Samsung Smart TV, say Roku as well. If you want to get our Roland Martin Unfiltered swag, do me a favor. Go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Again, shopblackstarnetwork.com. Our hats, our T-shirts, our America at 250. Shirts as well. We got some great products for y'all right there on shopblackstarnetwork.com. And again, we got more than 50 businesses that you can check out on shopblackstarnetwork.com. You go to our marketplace, support those businesses, get your products from there. We got black-owned toilet paper, as we said. We got cosmology with these brushes and the pick, all sort of stuff. This is important because, again, when you support them, when you buy from shopblackstarnetwork.com, you also are supporting this black-owned business. And so we appreciate everybody who does that. But again, shopblackstarnetwork.com, support all of these black-owned companies. Also, do me a favor, go to Fanbase, download the Fanbase app. I want you to, they got some great updates that are coming out. We're going to be having Isaac Hayes III on to talk about those things. Also, I want you to follow me on Fanbase at Roland S. Martin. Follow me at Roland S. Martin. I told you the other day that when it came to the Harriet Tubman Museum, we hit the $75,000 goal. And so we certainly want to congratulate them. We want to thank all of y'all for making that possible to hit that $75,000 goal. They've already started the repairs to the museum. I can't wait for them to reopen. And as I said, we're going to go ahead and do our show from there and broadcast from there when they do. All right, folks. Also, Jeff Johnson will be launching a new weekly show targeting brothers right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network called No Translation. You've seen us run the promos. Run it again, please.
Ask you a question. Why do so many people seem to think they know black men so well? What they think we want, what they think we need. Hell, they even tried to tell us why and how we voted, but never had a conversation with us. Never asked us how we felt, what brings us joy, what makes us angry, what makes us scared. How do we live? That's what this show is about. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. We can speak for ourselves. This will be a show where we bring brothers on that you don't see on every other talk show. Nope. Brothers that are doing work in local communities with black men for black communities. We're going to hear each other and try to understand so perhaps we can move forward together. No translation, because we don't need anybody speaking for us. Nope. What we need is each other. No translation, right here on the Black Star Network. Check it out.
All right, folks, it's going to be dropping in August. And shout out to my sister, Levita Marshall. Today is, first of all, it's some controversy, okay? Because first of all, she's been trying to celebrate her birthday, y'all, for 2 days, okay? On July 27th and July 28th. I said, girl, listen, okay? We can't, no. We ain't trying to do that. We need to pick a day. So she's like, well, I'm celebrating. But yeah, she been doing this for years. I'm like, listen, you were born on one day. Girl, make up your mind. Anyway, today I'm going to pick July 28th. July 28th, not 27th. So anyway, Levita Marshall, my sister, turns 56 years old today. It's her birthday. So happy birthday to my sister. She's the oldest of the three sisters, and she's just right behind me. So she's actually the middle child. So happy birthday to Levita. All right, y'all, we got to go. We had a great time at the Jalen Rose Golf Tournament. Man, I can't wait to show y'all some of the stuff. Y'all know he has some Kappas and Omegas running their miles. I had to smack them around. And so we had a little fun there. And so look forward to sharing the stuff with y'all from there. But also, my man Wendell Haskins, his Original Tee Golf Classic, which we attended on Sunday. This weekend, I'm in South Carolina. All y'all in South Carolina, I want to see y'all in Santee, South Carolina. Congressman Jim Clyburn has his 2-day golf tournament. I'm going to be broadcasting from Santee Convention Center on Friday. And so look forward to seeing y'all there. All right, y'all, that's it. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Holla!